not been properly assessed, scrutinised, their motives examined, and the appropriateness of them as parents been looked at. So I was pleased that it was a rigorous process. It was a process that went on for me and my wife for a couple of years. But as I say, it resulted in my daughter entering our lives, and our lives are just, I mean, it's hard to put into words how important her coming into our lives has been for us. A really, really wonderful experience. But obviously in the day job as the MP for Tottenham, this is a constituency that's seen the Victoria Colombier case a few years ago, Baby P, children who have been horribly harmed by their families, their birth families. And these are tragic stories, and these are stories that do lead that does mean that we need people who are there in terms of foster carers and in terms of adopted parents. So please call me on 0345 6060 973, or you can text me on 84850. Krish in Oxfordshire. Krish.
Hi, David.
Hi. What's your experience, Krish?
Well, I'm an adopted dad. A little bit like you, we had some birth children, and then we had adopted a little girl. And we're also local authority foster parents, and we've been doing that for the last 14 years. And now professionally I work as the chair of the Adoption and Special Guardianship Leadership Board, which is all about trying to bring innovation in this sector. And Shad, who you just heard on the call, is on one of the task groups I helped set up around racial disparity in adoption.
I mean, this sounds like a vocation to you. You had your own children. What motivated you to think I could do more, and I want to do more? I want more children as well. What was the motivation? You put it into your own words.
Sure. So we've had 3 birth children in 3 years, and we were under 30. And my wife said to me, I think we should consider fostering an adoption. And I said that sounded like a great idea for other people. I pictured the idea that these 3 come into our lives together, and it's possible that someday in the future they would leave our homes to go and get jobs or go to uni or whatever, and it'd be my wife and my kids, just the 2 of us. We'd go on those long romantic walks and on the beaches, and we'd do city breaks like people do in Scandinavian cities, and then it was all going to be different if you had suddenly needed to bring a nappy sack toddler. So I was quite resistant, and a few things happened to me. One was some friends of ours in their 60s became foster parents to teenagers for the first time, and I thought, whoa, if they can do that in their 60s, I should consider doing it in our 30s, So that was one thing. And then the numbers really began to hit me. But the number of children that end up coming into care, not getting the adopted family they wanted to, and then aging out of the care system, normally at 18, the stats are terrible. The number that end up homeless, or exploited, trafficked, or imprisoned, just awful. And I thought, I care about
I've got to say, because I've always felt the phrase looked after children is one of the biggest oxymorons in the English language. They're not looked after.
Well, I know you
Sufficiently.
I'm a foster parent, and the kids in my care are getting the best possible care. I'm looking after them. And
what I mean by that, Chris, is that you know that there's a lot of children they're in institutions. They're not in homes.
Sure. It's a minority compared to how many are in foster care, but the thing that really struck me was that, my older children left home to go to uni. That did happen. But they're home all the time, and they're always on the phone. They might run out of money. We, the parents, are the safety net. And kids need that. You never grow out of the need of a family. So why we think when a child hits 18, particularly one that's had a traumatic history because of neglect or abuse, why they're ready to face the world on their own with no safety net, that makes no sense to me at all.
And let me just understand, for those children who are in foster care and have been with foster carers, what happens to them at 18, for listeners who don't understand?
Well, most of them automatically leave foster care. You turn 18,
and fostering and special guardianship. By the way, if you're listening and you're a special guardian, please call me on 0345 6060973. Chris, just a quick rundown of what you want to see the government do more of.
Sure. So one of the big issues, and it came up in our previous chats, was around racial disparity. It really grieves me that black children wait the longest for adoption, and actually they're the least likely group to get adopted. And that's something that the board is looking at. What can we do to bring innovation in that space? And we're doing the big thinking. We're talking to our American colleagues because they've got exactly the same issue over there. So how can we combine forces and come up with better outcomes for kids? I don't want all this terrible conversation that's been happening about the race report to jeopardise the hard work that needs to be done. It's sad that there's a kind of cultural and ideological war going on there that can't get in the way of us making sure kids get the plans they need. That's one thing. I would love it. It's something I'm encouraging our government to look at is for kids over 6 who don't really look for doctors anymore. And so, after 6 years old, we're probably looking at spending the next 12 years of your life in foster care and then aging out from nothing. And I really want to see innovation in that space. That really matters to me. And also, I'm not sure we're doing the best job we can, making sure that a kind of national vision for this. So as a family in the North East, it takes 3 children to be adopted. If the regional area doesn't have a group of 3, then they might choose 1 child with that family. But there might be a group of 3 somewhere else in the country that will be separated because there are enough people willing to take the sibling group. So I want us to think a little bit more strategically about the best use of the adopters that we have got that have come forward. And I think finally, the big idea that needs to change is that adoption is really only for people that can't have their own birth children. And my experience, your experience is actually there's a whole bunch of us out there that are really willing to extend our families by taking in children. And we to be, brilliant adoptive parents of the kids that are waiting the longest, but which tend to be older.
Thank you so much, Chris. You've just been so wonderfully articulate about the whole subject. I'm so grateful for you calling in. I want to hear your adoption experiences after this from either side, as adoptive parents or as a child. I want to hear from you. Call me on 0345 6060973. You can text 84850 or tweet me at LBC. This is LBC News Now with Tim Humphrey, and the time now is 6:32.
Care home residents in England will be allowed 2 regular visitors indoors in just over a week's time. Those coming to see relatives will also be able to bring babies and young children with them, so some residents will be able to see grandchildren for the first time. A Good Friday church service in London has been stopped by police due to concerns over coronavirus rules. In a letter to parishioners on its website, the Christ the King Polish Catholic Church in Balham said police had exceeded their powers and all government requirements had been met. Nearly 1 in 10 of all UK adults have received both doses of a coronavirus vaccine, after the number of people receiving their second jab passed 5 million. Half of all over 80s have had a second dose. And the weather, the east and southeast remaining cloudy tonight. Elsewhere, clear skies will bring frost and fog, a low of 1.
This is LBC. At Nutmeg, we understand the value of a dream. We all have big plans for our little ones. But we also know life has its hiccups. A Nutmeg Junior ISA could help finance your kids' future dreams. So we can all sleep safe and sound through the night. Whether you're a dreamer or a planner, we have the investment solution for you. Visit nutmeg.com to learn more. Capital at risk, Junior ISA rules apply. Got 5 while your dinner's on? Got 5 while you're making a cuppa? Got 5 while you're waiting for your lucky socks to dry? 5 minutes is all it takes to register to vote in the May 2021 elections. So if you've never registered, or have recently moved house, visit gov.uk/register to vote by the 19th of April. Your vote matters. Don't lose it. The 7 Dwarfs were in a bit of a pickle. With their mines closing down, their finances were somewhat fickle. They looked to downsize their home fast, so Snow White could make her debts a thing of the past.
Boys, the cottage is looking well run.
So they spoke to the friendly team at Property Rescue, who buy properties in any condition and can offer a guaranteed sale in as little as 2 days, hassle-free. Fast forward to living happily ever after. Visit propertyrescue.co.uk. Property Rescue. Fast forward to sold.
0% APR representative across the range until the 30th of April in the Skoda Spring event. Driven by something different. Skoda. With Solutions Personal Contract Plan, minimum 10% deposit required. Minimum term 18 months, maximum term 36 months. Ordered by 30th of April and delivered by 31st of May 2021. Stock vehicles only, T's and C's apply. Excludes SE Technology, Target VRS, Superb IV, and Enyaq IV. Indemnities may be required. Skoda Financial Services.
Minions, did you know Sky Broadband Superfast guarantees your speed? Those two, and it doesn't guarantee you'll win the game. Or that your video will go viral. Or that you'll match with the love of your life. But Sky Broadband Superfast does guarantee the speed we promised, or money back. So reliable, it's minion-proof. Sky, believe in better. Sky Fibre Area's only speed measure dog must drop below mid-download speed for 3 consecutive days. 1 month subscription refund, claim up to twice in midterm after first fortnight. See sky.com.
Now we're gradually coming out of lockdown. We can get together again outside. Have a picnic for 6 in the park. Separate blankets and lots of space, obviously. But what if another friend walks by? It'd be rude not to invite them over, wouldn't it? The more people you meet, the greater your risk of getting COVID-19. So only meet in groups of up to 6 or 2 households. Let's take this next step safely. Remember, hands, face, space, and fresh air.
What does it take to help a teenage girl living with cervical cancer? Making a nice cuppa, fetching a blanket, giving boy advice, and having a conversation about freezing her eggs in case the treatment leaves her infertile. We do whatever it takes to help people living with cancer. But we can only do it with your help. Donate online today at macmillan.org.uk. Macmillan Cancer Support. Whatever it takes.
This is LBC with David Lammy. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
I've got some wonderful texts here. Really sweet to them. I am adopted. I was adopted in 1977. We have adopted twins, now 8 years old. I think many people don't understand how adoption has changed. My adoption was a traditional adoption. Young mum from a Catholic family. I was placed with my parents very early on at 4 weeks old. Adoption now is because there are more major issues with the birth parents, be it drugs, alcohol abuse, neglect of some sort. Our girls both have trauma issues coming from pre and early life. The more I learn as we go on our journey, the more I can see I have been affected by some of these issues as well. Although I can't be more thankful for the parents I have and the children that we have been blessed with. A beautiful tweet that is. Another one here, I just wanted to thank you, David, for yesterday and today's adoption discussion. 6 years on, my husband and I looked into adoption after infertility and then started the application process, but withdrew. It took time to work through the grief infertility leaves you with, and the thought that maybe that it wasn't right for us after all. Your show yesterday, oh my dear, this is making me rather emotional. Your show yesterday allowed my husband and I to have a conversation about revisiting adoption and fostering. Oh, that's wonderful. If you go on that journey, please send me an email and let me know how it's developing, because that's so heartwarming. There's another one here. Is there a need for foster grandparents? I'm a retired social worker and seem to recall that this was discussed back in the day. I'd love to be a grandma. And that's from Julie. And another one here. I was adopted by a white family when I was 6 months old. I am 46 this month, and I'm so glad I was, rather than having to go through the care system. I was very lucky, as my mum made sure I went to black awareness classes. Of course there are things you miss out on culturally, but overall the pros outweigh the cons easily. As a child, I don't believe race matters. All that is needed is love, care, and a family structure. Another beautiful, beautiful text. Jane in Bath. Jane.
Hi.
Hi, thanks so much for calling in, Jane.
Okay.
What's your experience?
Well, I'm an adopted mum of twins who are now 19. I've also got an
Wow,
older
you've done a long
grandson.
time, 19.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah,
Tell us
no,
about that journey. I'm sure it's been an
yeah.
up and down journey,
It
as
has been a
parenting
journey.
is. Tell us
They were
about
nearly
it.
6. They were nearly 6 when they came to us.
Yeah.
And I just loved it to start with. I mean, I have loved it in many ways all the way through. But yes, the challenges for us really came when they became teens.
Yes.
So those early days, they were just so full of fun. We'd waited 8 years to have another birth child,
Yes.
and it was wonderful. So much so that maybe I look back and I think, did I really appreciate what the children, were going through then? Because I was, having such a nice time myself. But there are challenges, no matter how nice it is. The children do get upset, they get angry, they break things, and they say things.
So the point is, teenagers, and I've got teenagers, are challenging anyway.
Yeah.
Clearly, young people who come from an adoptive background are going to have some pretty big challenges at that stage, when that who am I, what am I, pushing back at parent stage, where am I from, and those really big questions. And one of the callers yesterday said that therapeutic parenting and the journey that she had been on as a parent was actually really rewarding, because that's when you're challenged, but you're challenged to be the you want to be, I guess.
Yeah, and I think I heard that call. Definitely, we attended an NDR course, which stands for Non-Violent Resistance course, which I'm not taking on the title, but it really does help parents to take a step back, not take things personally, and really think about things from the child's perspective. So when things are being said or things are being broken, it's really about thinking that this child is hurting rather than, thinking just about the behaviour. And that helps us enormously. We have had some absolutely brilliant support. And I think one of your listeners said yesterday about how fulfilling it is, and that's the thing for me. This is, my 3 children are my life, and I've had these amazing experiences with birth child and with 2 adopted children, and I do feel very fulfilled. I feel as though we're coming out of the other side now, well, hopefully. And it has been a really challenging journey the last few years, no doubt about it, but it's been worth it, absolutely worth it.
And what would you say to people listening, thinking about whether they've got birth children and whether they've got more to give? What would you say to them?
I would say absolutely, definitely call your local authority agency or your local voluntary agency, adoption agency. It doesn't sign you up to anything. Just have a chat with somebody. I actually work at an adoption agency in Bristol, and we have 3 adoptive parents on the advice team, and we're happy to talk about our own experiences. And it's great to think that people feel able to call us, even if they don't think that they're not sure about adoption. That, we want people to call, we want people to explore it. They may go away just more knowledgeable about adoption, and they may share that with somebody else.
There's still a lot of ignorance about adoption. My wife and I get a bit upset there's so much ignorance about it. Some of the films that get made, some of the adverts that get produced, it's sort of really annoying, because it's old-fashioned and they don't really understand what today's adoption looks like. But, Jane, thank you for calling in and just sharing that with us. I want to get Sheila in, if I can, in High Wycombe. Sheila.
Hello.
Hi, Sheila.
Yeah.
What's your experience?
Well, I started as a foster carer